What happens when one of Hollywood's most beloved actors stands his ground against the increasingly hostile behavior of late-night television's most controversial host? The legendary actor's promotional appearance turned into an explosive showdown that left audiences stunned and social media buzzing as professionalism crumbled on live television. The Late Show studio buzzed with its usual pre-show energy as Samuel L. Jackson settled into the guest chair, his signature confidence radiating. Under the bright stage lights, what should have been a routine promotional interview for his latest film quickly devolved into one of the most uncomfortable confrontations in late-night television history. Colbert opened with his trademark smirk, immediately diving into what he clearly thought would be easy comedic territory. "So, Sam, I have to ask about your recent comments regarding Hollywood's diversity initiatives. Some people are saying you're being a bit dramatic about the whole thing." Jackson's expression shifted almost imperceptibly, but those familiar with the actor's intensity recognized the warning signs. "Dramatic? That's an interesting choice of words, Stephen. Are you suggesting that fighting for equal representation is somehow theatrical?" The host leaned back, apparently oblivious to the tension building across from him. "Well, I mean, you did compare the industry to segregation-era America. Don't you think that's a bit much?" The audience fell silent as Jackson's jaw tightened. His voice dropped to that dangerous register that moviegoers knew preceded an explosion. "A bit much? Let me tell you what's a bit much, Stephen. It's having a white host minimize decades of systemic exclusion while sitting behind a desk that's been occupied by white men for 70 years. Colbert's smile faltered for the first time, but he pressed forward with what seemed like willful ignorance. "Come on, Sam, we're making progress. Look, you're here on my show right now." "Your show?" Jackson's laugh was anything but amused. "You mean CBS's show? The network's show? You act like you're doing me some kind of favor by having me here to promote a movie that'll make them millions." The host's demeanor shifted, his liberal persona cracking to reveal something uglier underneath. "I think you're being a little ungrateful here. We booked you. We gave you this platform." "Gave me?" Jackson leaned forward, his voice rising. "You gave me nothing. I earned my place in this industry through talent and perseverance, while people like you were handed opportunities on silver platters." Colbert's face reddened, his carefully crafted image beginning to crumble. "That's not fair, and you know it. I worked hard to get where I am." "Hard work?" Jackson's voice dripped with disdain. "You mean reading jokes written by a room full of writers while I was out there actually creating characters? Actually putting myself on the line for my craft?" The tension in the studio was palpable now, with crew members exchanging worried glances, and the audience sitting in stunned silence. Colbert, clearly rattled, made the fatal mistake of doubling down. "Listen, I don't know what your problem is tonight, but you're being hostile for no reason. We're trying to have a civilized conversation here." Jackson stood up slowly, his full height imposing even in the seated studio setting. "Civilized? You want to talk about civilized? What's civilized about dismissing legitimate concerns about representation as dramatic? What's civilized about telling a black man he should be grateful for basic respect?" The host's mask was completely off now, revealing an entitled arrogance that shocked viewers. "I never said anything about race." "You didn't have to," Jackson cut him off. "Your whole attitude, your whole approach to this conversation, it reeks of privilege. You sit there in your comfortable bubble, making jokes about issues that actually matter to people's lives." Colbert's voice took on a defensive edge that made him sound petulant rather than authoritative. "I think you're reading way too much into this. Can't we just talk about your movie?" "Oh, now you want to talk about the movie?" Jackson's anger was controlled but unmistakable. "After you spent the first 10 minutes trying to make me look like some angry activist who doesn't know his place?" The audience began to murmur, sensing that something unprecedented was unfolding before their eyes. This wasn't the polished, sanitized conflict of typical talk show banter. This was real, raw, and getting more intense by the second. Colbert made one last attempt to regain control, but his tone revealed just how deeply Jackson's words had gotten under his skin. "Look, I don't know what you want from me here." Jackson's eyes narrowed, his voice cutting through the studio like a blade. "What I want you to stop pretending you're some champion of progressive values while you sit there disrespecting me on national television. I want you to acknowledge that your whole liberal persona is just an act you put on for ratings." The accusation hit Colbert like a physical blow. His face flushed deeper red as he struggled to maintain his composure. "That's completely unfair, and you know it. I've been fighting for progressive causes my entire career." "Fighting?" Jackson's laugh was bitter and sharp. "You've been profiting off progressive causes. There's a difference, Stephen. You make jokes about Trump, about conservatives, about anyone who doesn't fit your worldview. But when a black man calls you out on your own bias, suddenly you're the victim." The audience was completely silent now, some people shifting uncomfortably in their seats. This had gone far beyond typical talk show drama into something genuinely explosive. Colbert's producers were frantically gesturing from the sidelines, but the host seemed oblivious to everything except the man standing before him. "I am not biased," Colbert said through gritted teeth, his carefully modulated TV voice cracking under pressure. "I treat all my guests with respect." "Respect?" Jackson stepped closer to the desk, his presence commanding the entire studio. "You call what you did tonight respect? You ambushed me with loaded questions. You minimized my experiences, and now you're gaslighting me into thinking I'm overreacting." The host's composure was unraveling in real time. "I asked you legitimate questions about statements you made publicly. That's what journalists do?" "Journalist?" Jackson's voice rose to a level that made everyone in the studio flinch. "You're not a journalist, Stephen. You're a comedian who got lucky enough to inherit a desk and a platform. Don't confuse reading from a teleprompter with actual journalism." Colbert shot to his feet, his chair rolling backward as his professionalism completely abandoned him. "How dare you come on my show and attack me like this? I've been nothing but professional." "Professional?" Jackson's voice was incredulous. "Professional would have been doing your homework before this interview. Professional would have been treating me like the accomplished actor I am instead of some stereotype you could poke fun at. Professional would have been showing basic human decency." The host's face was now a mask of barely contained rage, his liberal facade completely shattered. "I don't have to stand here and take this from you. This is my show, my stage." "There it is," Jackson said, pointing an accusatory finger at Colbert. "Your show, your stage. You think you own this space? You think you're entitled to treat people however you want because you're the one with the microphone." Colbert's voice rose to match Jackson's intensity. "I built this career from nothing. I worked my way up through comedy clubs, through small parts, through years of rejection." "Spare me the sob story," Jackson cut him off ruthlessly. "You worked your way up through a system that was designed to favor people who look exactly like you. Meanwhile, actors like me had to be twice as good to get half the opportunities. And we still have to sit here and listen to you act like you're doing us favors." The tension in the room was suffocating. Camera operators were still filming, unsure whether they should stop, while the audience sat in stunned silence. This wasn't entertainment anymore. This was a real confrontation between two powerful men with decades of frustration behind their words. Colbert's next words revealed the true depth of his arrogance. "If you hate this industry so much, if you hate people like me so much, why don't you just leave? Nobody's forcing you to be here." The studio fell into a deadly quiet. Jackson's expression shifted from anger to something far more dangerous: complete contempt. When he spoke again, his voice was low and controlled, but every word carried the weight of decades of accumulated frustration. "Leave? You want me to leave?" Jackson's smile was cold and predatory. I've been in this industry longer than you've been alive professionally. I've earned my place here through talent, not through connections or privilege or luck. And you have the audacity to tell me to leave? Colbert realized he had crossed a line, but his pride wouldn't let him back down. I didn't mean— You meant exactly what you said, Jackson interrupted. You meant that when things get uncomfortable, when someone challenges your authority, your first instinct is to tell them to get out. That's not progressive, Stephen. That's the same mentality that's been keeping people like me out of rooms like this for generations. Colbert's face went pale, then flushed again as the full weight of Jackson's words hit him. His mouth opened and closed several times before he managed to speak. That's not— I didn't mean it that way. Then how did you mean it? Jackson's voice was like steel. Because from where I'm standing, it sounds like you just told a black man to know his place and stay quiet or get out. Sound familiar? The audience began to murmur louder now, some people audibly gasping at the implications. Colbert looked around desperately as if searching for support, but found only uncomfortable stares and judgment. His producers were making frantic cutting motions, but the damage was already done. I'm not a racist, Colbert stammered, his voice cracking. I've supported civil rights. I've donated to causes. Writing checks doesn't make you an ally, Jackson shot back. Having me on your show to promote my movie doesn't make you progressive. Real allyship means listening when someone tells you you're wrong, not doubling down and trying to silence them. Colbert's desperation was palpable now. You're twisting my words, taking everything out of context. The audience can see that. Jackson turned to address the studio audience directly, his commanding presence filling the room. Can you see it? Can you see how quickly someone's true colors come out when they're challenged? This is what happens behind closed doors in boardrooms, in casting offices, in every space where decisions get made about our careers and our lives. The audience erupted in scattered applause, some people nodding in agreement while others sat in stunned silence. Colbert looked betrayed, as if his own audience had turned against him. This is ridiculous, Colbert said, his voice rising to near hysteria. I'm being ambushed here. This was supposed to be a simple interview about your movie. Simple? Jackson's laugh was sharp and humorless. Nothing about this industry is simple for people who look like me. Every interview, every appearance, every opportunity comes with the risk of being diminished, dismissed, or disrespected. The only difference is that tonight I decided not to take it quietly. Colbert made one final desperate attempt to salvage his reputation. Look, maybe we both got a little heated. Can't we just move past this and— Move past it? Jackson's voice was incredulous. You want to sweep this under the rug like nothing happened? You want me to smile and pretend everything's fine so you can preserve your image? The host's face crumpled as he realized there was no way back from this moment. I think maybe we should take a commercial break. No, Jackson said firmly, his voice cutting through Colbert's weak attempt at escape. We're not taking a break. We're not pretending this didn't happen. You wanted to have this conversation, Stephen. You started this when you decided to minimize my experiences and question my right to speak about discrimination. The studio was electric with tension. As Jackson delivered his final blow, you sit behind this desk night after night, making jokes about people in power, pretending to be on the side of justice and equality. But when faced with actual accountability, when confronted with your own privilege and bias, you crumble. You're not a progressive champion, Stephen. You're just another privileged white man who's comfortable with the status quo as long as it benefits you. Colbert's face was ashen, his career flashing before his eyes as he realized the magnitude of what had just happened on live television. Samuel, please. Please what? Jackson gathered himself with dignity, straightening his jacket. Please, make this easier for you? Please help you save face? Please pretend that what just happened here didn't reveal exactly who you really are? The actor looked directly into the camera, addressing the viewers at home with the gravitas that had made him a legend. This is what happens when we demand better. This is what happens when we refuse to be grateful for scraps and start expecting the respect we've earned. Some people can't handle that reality. He turned back to Colbert one final time, his voice carrying the weight of decades of experience and frustration. I came here tonight to promote my film, to talk about my work, to engage in professional discourse. Instead, I was met with condescension, dismissal, and ultimately the suggestion that I should leave if I don't like being treated poorly. Well, Stephen, I'm going to take your advice. Jackson began walking toward the exit, his departure commanding more attention than most actors' greatest performances. The audience was on their feet now, some applauding, others simply watching in awe as television history unfolded before them. Colbert called after him desperately, "Samuel, wait!" But Jackson didn't turn around. He paused at the edge of the stage, his back still to the host. "This conversation is over, Stephen. But the larger conversation about respect, about representation, about basic human decency in this industry, that conversation is just beginning." With that, Samuel L. Jackson walked off the set of The Late Show, leaving behind a stunned host, a captivated audience, and a moment that would be replayed and analyzed for years to come. The incident sparked immediate social media outrage, with clips of the confrontation going viral within hours. Colbert's ratings plummeted as viewers turned away from a host they now saw as exposed and diminished. The confrontation became a defining moment, highlighting the ongoing need for genuine respect and professionalism in entertainment, and proving that even the most carefully crafted public personas can crumble when faced with authentic challenge and accountability.